Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Covington, CEO and founder of Snap Sponsorship. Thank you very much indeed for giving up your time this afternoon to come along to the fourth webinar in this four-part series about securing sponsorship in 90 days. Obviously, to this point, if you haven't been able to attend the previous sessions, the videos and the slides will be available after today for all four webinars that we've run. Recapping on the first three, we've talked about creating proposals. How do we actually present our value to potential sponsors? We went on to talk about what does it look like from an acquisition perspective? How do we go about actually securing those sponsors with our fantastic proposals? And then thirdly, we talked about activation and how we ensure that we've delivered great value and therefore we retain those sponsors through delivering beyond their expectations through great activation. And that brings us to today, where we kick into our fourth and final webinar in this series, where we're looking at the future of grassroots sports sponsorship and ultimately where we see things going in the future, but also just kind of recapping on where we've been in the past. I think it's really important to acknowledge how this has all evolved over the recent weeks, months, and years that have gone by. So in today's session, we're going to be covering various topics. Most of this you would have seen on the initial invitation that we sent out. I am a bit of a fan of going off piste, so feel free to drop any questions into the chat function. I will do my best to cover everything today, and I'm sure I'll be told off if I go too far astray from our agenda. But just to tap into these four sections, we're going to talk about digital tools, and obviously we can't move in our day jobs, in our personal lives, for digitization. We've seen everything transform around the world in every aspect of our lives over the last few years. And obviously what comes next with AI is going to be crucial as well. But we're going to start there with how we can use these tools to help us boost our sponsorship activity. We're then going to talk about how we enhance our visibility. And obviously this is going back to some slightly older tools around social media and how we use that to maximize our impact, both from an acquisition and then a retention perspective, delivering value to our sponsors. We'll then move on to looking at strategies and tools that are available to us to help us deliver long-term sustainability within those partnerships, ultimately making sure we retain those partners and push forward to acquire new ones. And I've invited Kiki along today from Haringey Borough Women's FC, and she's going to be talking a little bit about how they've been successful in using a number of these digital tools in their sponsorship strategy and the success they've had in doing that. So firing into our first area for today, so digital tools. I just wanted to pick up on the fact that I appreciate you've all come today to a webinar which is provided by us here at Snap Sponsorship, but I also want to talk to you about the journey that we've been on to get here and the options that are out there and available to you, because Snap will not be the right solution for everyone, and hopefully by the end of today's session you'll have a good view of what you can start as soon as this afternoon with regards to pushing your organization's sponsorship forward. Now, whether or not that includes Snap as part of the solution, that I will leave completely down to you to determine. So when we talk about sponsorship in the context of acquisition and management, there are a number of tools that are available to us to do that. And if I take you back to 2010, 2011, when I started doing sponsorship at my grassroots sports club, I found myself in a position where I inherited an Excel spreadsheet and nothing else. It was just a document which said, here are the companies, this is how much they sponsor, and for some of them, it told me what they sponsor. And when you inherit that, it becomes an incredibly difficult task to do anything meaningful with it. And what I mean by that is ultimately what I experienced was not only a set of data which wasn't necessarily accurate, but also it didn't reflect the relationships in terms of how well were things going. Were the sponsors happy? Were they likely to renew? When did they renew? And so I took that spreadsheet, and the first thing I did was go and have a conversation with each of those sponsors. And that was to establish, A, were we aligned in terms of expectations with regards to A, what they were paying, and B, what they were getting back in return. And then secondly, and probably most importantly, what was their intention for the forthcoming season? And then from that point, it enabled me to make decisions about what we do with our inventory. And when I talk about inventory, we're talking pitch side banners, post protectors, program adverts, because my club was a rugby club. What became very apparent is that I had firstly this spreadsheet, and secondly a brochure. And this brochure was A5. It was glossy in kind of finish. Design was great. We used a local design company. They did all the graphics for us, and we agonized over the 12 pages we had as to what we put on it. So was it first team front of shirt on page one? Was it naming rights of the clubhouse? We only had 12 pages to play with, and it cost us, from memory, a couple £100 to print a few hundred copies of this A5 brochure. And of course, we were not showing even a fraction of the potential things we could have used for sponsorship at our club because we were restricted to 12 pages. And that brochure went to print. We got our 200 copies, and there were four of us that used to work really hard to try and secure sponsors for the club. But of course, I had 50 copies of the brochure, and so did my three colleagues, all have 50 copies of the brochure. And when I was successful in selling something on page 4 of the brochure, we had 199 copies that were then essentially out of date. And on a number of occasions, we came slightly unstuck and looked a bit silly when other colleagues from within the club were out there selling the same item on page 4 of this brochure that we'd agonized over building. And that was kind of my first experience of sponsorship, and time's moved on since then, and picking up on some of these tools which I've listed here today. You can obviously see I've listed CRM tools, an email marketing platform, social media analytics, and posting, and then some AI proposal builders in the shape of Canva. And all of these 4 platforms are great, and they were kind of part of my evolution with regards to how we position sponsorship within the club environment. And what we did is we took what was a digital brochure, printed in hard copy, and we tried to move that into a online presentation in the first instance, something that we could update, something that we could tailor specifically to the people we were talking to. And then over time, we started to evolve the spreadsheet into something which had a bit more of a CRM based element to it. So we looked at Salesforce and Pipedrive and various other CRM tools. And just breaking down these four tools essentially. CRM tool, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's effectively a database and management tool to list all of our sponsors within. It gives us the ability to detail all of the various contacts at that sponsor's organization, how much they pay us, what they get in return. Then we had our communication platform. We used MailChimp for email marketing, and we were sending out emails to the collective audience of our membership and also to our collective audience of sponsors to enable us to exchange value between those two groups. Hootsuite, so pushing out social posts, aggregating across multiple platforms. So if we wanted one piece of communication to go out over Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, we could do that all from within the Hootsuite platform. And then finally, making everything look great. And Canva is fantastic for giving us templates and layouts that we can then build upon. But all of these come with a really nice free start point, normally very limited access, either in time, number of users, or functionality. And then very quickly, you have to make the decision to buy into that software. So whilst we were saving money on printing brochures, we then started incurring increasing costs on registrations within these platforms to enable us to work together as a team. And we were having to buy multiple licenses or multiple seats to be able to get everyone in the team onto these platforms. I'll come back to those systems a bit later on. I'll move on now to talking about sort of social media and visibility through social media. So social media has been a great help in the journey of evolving sponsorship, which bringing us into today, and then ultimately we'll talk about what that looks like in the future. But really basic things around social media, which we would have historically either acknowledged in a match day program in a printed form. Again, we used to have weekly match day programs for every game. Lots of the content around sponsor branding and advertisements all remained consistent, but then we'd have features in there for team sheets and particular sponsors for that match day. Social media gives us a great versatility to obviously communicate selection, team sheets, sponsor announcements, if we've got someone sponsoring the day or the league or the series or whatever it is, that whatever sport we're playing in. We can talk about individual players and advertise the opportunity to sponsor that particular individual. And we can look at post-match write-ups, match reports, or score updates during the game. So all of those things help us build following, build awareness, and add value to the audience that ultimately may well be watching, but also that audience that sponsors us. Because if our channels are more compelling and the content on them is more current and informative and engaging, then of course we're going to get more people looking at it, and more people looking at it when we've got that statistical information. That then is something we can package up and present to prospective sponsors and current sponsors as value. And therefore that value can be charged for, and that ultimately results in us securing sponsorship income. Hopefully you can see some of those images on the right hand side of the screen. They're just some examples of the various elements I've just mentioned there. Just going to go into sort of some of the strategies that we're seeing being deployed by lots of clubs across the Snap system, and that's resulted in some fantastic long-term success with regards to the retention and long-term sort of health of their partnerships that they currently have. And this all really starts with understanding value at the outset. And for me, value is all around, first of all, us understanding as clubs what it is that we have that's attractive to prospective sponsors. And how we do that is by starting bottom up, in my view, on what is the potential return on investment. And of course, not every sponsor is looking to drive a pounds and pence return on their marketing spend. Some will be looking to do it for reasons of corporate social responsibility. There are some advantages around brand positioning, local brand recognition, particularly if they're operating in competitive markets. But fundamentally, if we start bottom up with what the value might be from a pounds and pence return perspective, everything else is then potentially an upside, a bonus. So when we talk about valuation, the example in the bottom right-hand corner, the picture on this slide, talks about how we identify the value or the cost of a particular product or service. We can look at the frequency that someone is likely to buy that product and service. We can then look at how many members we've got, and then we can think about the adoption, how many people from within our membership we think might use that product or service. And when we do that, if I pick on a simple example, and if you've been on the previous webinars, you've probably heard me talk about it before, but I think this is a really good leveler for a way of us all understanding. If your members drive cars and they come to the club or where you train or play and they drive that car, then we know that our membership has a series of vehicles that require by law an MOT every year. So if we've got an MOT which it costs £48 and we've got 500 members and we think we can get 25% of them to use a particular MOT garage who sponsors us, that data is incredibly valuable, because what it does is it enables us to calculate a potential return on investment for that sponsor. So rather than us going out cap in hand saying, please may we have, please support us, please sponsor us because we're a great club, we do great things in the community, we've been established a long time. Whilst all of those things are incredibly valid, what it doesn't do is demonstrate to that business owner or that marketing lead the fact that this partnership will deliver a return on investment. So one of the things that we've really focused on within the Snap system is, and you can do this as well independently should you wish, an Excel spreadsheet, and invest your time doing it. But ultimately, you can calculate and start to realize the value of your membership. And that doesn't just apply to MOTs. You could apply that to every industry you could possibly imagine. So it might be local hairdressers or barbers shops. We've got 300 male participants, and the local barber shop, most of them go to, and we think that we can get another 15-20% to come along. You can again drive through that type of equation. Also, when we start talking about how do we streamline that activity, how do we take that data and then use it very quickly in a very efficient, streamlined, particularly respecting volunteers' time, get that information out into the market. So what we've done within the system, if you draw your attention to the image in the top right-hand corner, is as part of the CRM system, we give you the ability to visualize your pipeline. So if you manage to, we populate this with, I don't know, half a dozen local MOT garages, we can simply select the emailing tool, select the MOT garages, and we can input the return on investment calculations directly into a body of an email, which we've pre-written for you, and you can send that straight out to those prospective sponsors. So in just a few clicks, you can take all of that research, data narrative, put it into an email, hit send, and it go directly to a prospective sponsor. And something that may have taken you, you know, half an hour, you're doing in just a few simple clicks on the Snap platform. When it comes to negotiation management, being able to do something where in a very simple, plain English conversational way, capture the key components of the deal, start dates, end dates, sponsorship assets that you're going to include, any activations, the things that you agreed to deliver for the sponsor throughout the course of a season, to be able to capture that very quickly in a conversational based deal negotiation, and then translate that into a legally binding contract. Again, that was something that I used to spend hours on all the time I was doing sponsorship at my club manually, and we'd be engaging the services of solicitors to be able to go through those agreements and draft them accordingly. Again, now we've automated that all within the Snap platform, so that when we capture all of those key components of the deal, the price, the duration, the payment terms, the activation plan, the key components of the assets that we're including in the deal, that is again just a few clicks to actually creation of the contract. And then I talk about automated engagement. So we talk about generating personalized emails. We've got templates, mail merge, all sat within the suite of tools in the Snap system. And that also dovetails into the previous slide where we talked about outreach on social media. And within our social media tool, we've got the ability to talk about the opportunities available for sponsorship, the sponsors themselves when we're thanking them ahead of game days, and also the ability to just promote our existence and our presence on the Snap platform, so that our users are able to tell effectively their audience, the world that's listening to them, that here's where you can come and look at getting involved in sponsoring the club, and they're one click away from your profile. And to bring this to life a little bit, I just want to talk about one of our clubs, Worthing Rugby. Those guys were able to utilize the platform, take one of our case studies about estate agents, calculate using the return on investment tool the potential value that they could deliver to them. And then with that information, they were able to do some basic generic outreach. They targeted half a dozen of the local estate agents in and around the closest proximity to the club. And they had someone respond and the deal completed and cash in the bank within 72 hours. And that was just taking good, well-proven case study-based methodology from within the Snap system, putting that into a communication which was concise and very targeted, giving real proof points and relevance to the potential sponsor. And with a little bit of research on Google, identified half a dozen targets, sent that out the door using the tools, and as I say, had the deal concluded with cash in the bank within 72 hours. Talking a bit more about the social sharing tools. So here within the platform, we can see we've built firstly, the ability to target multiple different platforms simultaneously. So here I can select a single piece of communication, post it across Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn all simultaneously. I can do essentially three separate things here. Firstly, I can promote generic information about the club. I could even be giving score updates, announcing events. I can do all of that from within the platform. Secondly, I can be promoting the fact that we're on the platform of Snap, and please check out our profile and give a URL, and that's all automated, and the text is pre-written for you. You have the ability to edit it, but ultimately it's pre-written. Thirdly, we can start to talk around the opportunities we have available for sponsorship. So if we had a particular game coming up that we wanted to secure a sponsor for, we could post about that and invite someone to come and explore that opportunity on the platform. And then finally, we can promote and post about our sponsors. So you'll see in the bottom screen here, this particular sponsor is being scheduled. So in this particular example, it's the Church Hall's sponsor who is currently being posted about every day across the week on behalf of this club. So again, you may choose to do an announcement before every game. If we're playing cricket, it might be before the first ball's being bowled every Saturday, or in the pool swimming on a Thursday evening, whatever it may be. You could schedule all of your posts to thank each of your sponsors. Once you've got it scheduled, you're completely hands off for the rest of the season. And we know that those sponsors are going to be engaged and communicated with throughout that period of time. Huge amount of time saving achieved through the automation. As a club volunteer, I can sit there at the start of the season, schedule all my posts, and sit back and forget about it, knowing that all of my sponsors are going to be acknowledged at an appropriate time. Just to move on to kind of some next steps in terms of what I would encourage you to do when considering how you take the information from across the last 3 sessions that we've run and today's session, is really to think about, what is it I'm going to do to create a proposal which is going to be compelling to potential sponsors. And importantly, this is about making sure that the information I'm presenting isn't all about us as a club and we're great and support us because we do all of these great things. Whilst that's really important, that's something which I would say comes secondary to here's what we think we can do to support your business, Mr. Mrs. potential sponsor. And in articulating that to a prospective sponsor, the rest of that information will flow, because then once that conversation starts, we can back up our claims with our heritage, what we do at the club, all the fantastic work we're doing on and off the field, and so on and so forth. All of that information is important, but I would very much encourage you to consider the phasing of that and really changing our mentality and our thought process around how do we present ourselves, and in particular, presenting ourselves as a value add to those sponsors. So it's more about what we can do for you, not what we want from you as a sponsor. Once we've got that compelling rationale down on a presentation deck or a set of slides, a sponsorship brochure, or a Snap platform, if that's the direction of travel you choose to go down. Once you have that ready, it's then about identifying your target audience. And whether that be through some LinkedIn research, looking at what emails you can acquire from within the club membership, any networking events you can attend, it's about identifying who we're going to go after. And my advice here is not to go with kind of a machine gun approach of just targeting everyone in the local town saying, hey, we're here and come sponsor us. It's about really honing down on industry by industry. And the great thing about starting from within your membership is the chances are you've probably got a lot of those sponsors already there. And my challenge to you today would be, if you thought about your membership and you thought about a state agency, or you thought about car garages and automotive, is there someone in the club that either works within, owns and runs, or knows someone who does own, run, or work within one of those industries? Well, that's your natural start point. So we should start with the low-hanging fruit. So let's not go and try and create the most compelling outreach to random people that we don't know in a very cold fashion. Let's start with what we call at Snap our internal launch. And our internal launch focuses on creating a defined list of potential targets per industry, and then looking at who within our audience that we already have direct reach to, i.e. our members, how they can help us get to that decision maker. A number of the clubs that use Snap, using our tools, following that methodology, don't actually need to move beyond our internal launch phase to focus on targeting external, regional, national, or local businesses, because they saturate a lot of their sponsorship inventory just from within the existing networks they have. And again, I've talked about them in the previous webinar, but Wood and Mortimer is probably one of my favorite examples of this. I mean, they've just hit their 56th sponsor now. I think last time we were on a webinar where they were at 52. They've now up to 56 sponsors, and they're still just using the Snap tools, using the methodology, and really leveraging the existing network of connections they have. And they're a tiny club with, only 50 or 60 members. So to be able to achieve that with those type of numbers, I kind of draw your attention to the art of the possible with the membership sizes that you may well have on today's call. Creating great engaging sponsorship content is critical, not just for delivering value to those sponsors you have. So once we've created custom packages that meet their demands, meet their needs, when we actually start to talk about those sponsors and promote them throughout the course of the season, it's more than just about saying, this is our sponsor, thank you. It's about bringing to life their product or service. So if we can create really great engaging content, telling people that are within our audience list, whether that be online, social media, text message groups, WhatsApp groups, Facebook pages, whatever it may be, however we communicate, rather than delivering a very static narrative down the pipe to the audiences we have, if we can create a narrative which is compelling and engaging, we're far more likely to see two things: additional engagement from those sponsors, either additional spend or getting them to stay longer and renew. But also it's part of our sales strategy of showing other sponsors, prospective sponsors, how much love and attention and consideration we're giving to the sponsors we already have. And if we're able to demonstrate and show that, then of course we're far more likely to gain better traction when we do the next phase of reach out to our next sponsorship industry, because if they can see we're already doing a great job, they're more likely to want to get involved. And then everything around tracking and incentivizing renewal. So if we're able to use tools which demonstrate and show us what it is we've done over the course of the year, so when it comes around to renewal, we've already preempted anything that the sponsors may have in terms of feedback, and we increase our chances of making sure that they renew. So I'd encourage you again, whether you are considering using Snap, whether you're going to look to go solo and use some of those other tools I mentioned earlier, please consider ahead of time. If you fast forward 12 months from now and you're sat in the club bar or in the local pub or restaurant or coffee shop and you're having a cup of coffee or a glass of wine with your sponsor and you're having that conversation about renewal, start with the end in mind. What is it that our sponsors likely to be to want to have achieved in that duration to be happy to renew for the next period of time in the future? So personally, when I was doing this back at my club when we very first started, I would start the relationship with that question. And that question would be something along the lines of, if we're sat in a pub in 12 months from now having a pint of beer, what great stuff has happened so that you're not even thinking twice about renewing? And that question to the sponsor at the start is incredibly powerful because it really sets the tone for their expectations, because you're demonstrating that you're buying into what it is that they want to achieve. And also there's no confusion about what good looks like at the end of that period of time. So when you're sitting there in 12 months time, you can be having that conversation saying, I asked you this question 12 months ago, and these were the three things you said you wanted me to have done and achieved, and we've done all of them, and we also did X, Y, Z. And of course, when you're presenting that to them, it's a very, very compelling reason for them to renew. If anything, you probably put them in a position where it's very hard for them not to renew. So I'd encourage you to consider that. Of course, I'm here to tell you about Snap. It's something I'm incredibly passionate about that I founded back in 2012. We didn't start off as a web-based platform. We started off as a consultancy business. We did the hard yards. We took all of the learning of everything I did at my club. We replicated it across many other sports clubs, organically building out of our local town into surrounding towns, and then eventually across the UK. And what we were able to prove was that all of the methodology we were using was able to be replicated regardless of geographic location, what sport you were playing, what level of performance you were playing at, how big you were as a club membership, whether you had facilities or you were completely, running clubs that were running on pavements with no clubhouses, no facilities at all. We realized that we were able to replicate the success through great activations using some of the tools I mentioned earlier. And that was the point at which we realized that we could turn this into a web-based platform, which would give people like you on today's call the tools to do it for themselves. And the important thing there is that we aspire to create commercial sustainability for every club and every team and every individual, regardless of all of those factors. So whether we are male or female, whether we are playing in elite sport or amateur recreational, whether we're part of a massive club or a tiny club, whether we have a pavilion and a lovely stadium and stand, or whether we literally pound the pavements and are part of a running club. The tool is entirely agnostic, and we wanted to make it scalable and affordable for every club to get involved. And what this slide I've got up on the screen now hopefully brings to life is some of the tools I mentioned earlier. So the Salesforce, MailChimp, Hootsuite, Canva products, they are based on a per seat license. So for one person at the club to have access to each of those four elements. And this is just a sample. Of course, there are many other tools, printing brochures or producing PowerPoint slide decks, all of these other things in addition. But just picking on those four, you're at kind of the £137 just under per month per person to have access to all of those tools. Those tools and more, we've essentially built versions of ourselves within the Snap system, and we're offering that to you for free. You can sign up to Snap today for £0 per month, and then we would collect 20% of any sponsorship you secure. And we've recently launched that price point as an offering to support individuals who are trying to get started but haven't necessarily been able to get full buy-in or commitment from club committees just yet. Or they have a nervousness and they want to give it a go before they start parting with any cash. My word of caution about our free package is that if you go on to have the success which I see most of our customers have, and you secure more than £1,797 in the year, then the commission you would have paid us at 20% is more than what it would cost you to go on our pro package. And that pro package is £29.95 per month. The fundamental difference between our standard package at £0 and our pro package at £29.95 is the fact that with the pro package, you keep 100% of your sponsorship completely commission free. So I would just urge you to consider that at the point at which you make the decision to sign up. We do give you a 30-day window to change. So if you wanted to sign up, give it a go, get started on the Snap platform for no cost, you've got the 30-day initial window to upgrade without penalty. And then we do just ask that any other upgrade or subscription changes, they will be restricted up until after the first 12 months. So you could sign up for £0, use it for the first 29 days, request to upgrade. We upgrade you to £29.95. Alternatively, you're welcome to stay on the free package forever. Just be aware that obviously all of your sponsorship you attract will incur a 20% commission. It's also important to stress that our system is completely unlimited in terms of the number of users you can have. In fact, we actively encourage you to have as many users as you can possibly get to share the workload. So if the chair, president, secretary, all want to get involved, commercial lead, sponsorship lead, or if you're a smaller club and you've just got half a dozen parents that want to all get behind sponsorship activity at the club, you can have as many users on your Snap profile as you wish, and you still pay the exact same amount. So there is no additional charges. So hopefully what this demonstrates is, and in the spirit of today's webinar, it's all about, grassroots sponsorship and the future of grassroots sponsorship. And we can't shy away from the fact that digitization is how everything in our daily lives, whether that be work, personal, or when we're volunteering, is moving forward in a digital way. And therefore, that is why we've done what we've done. That's why we've built what we've built. And we're seeing clubs now all over the country, and some now overseas, having this success using the Snap platform. Okay, I'll take a pause at that point, and I'd like to introduce you to Kiki. Kiki has been leading the charge for Haringey Borough Women's Football Club. Kiki's been on the platform now for a number of months, and is particularly au fait with all things digital. Has done some fantastic work around their social media, and I won't do it justice. So I'd rather just hand over to Kiki to talk. And hopefully she's going to be able to share with us some of her experiences, how she's used digital tools for the greater good of Haringey Borough Women's FC, and then how they've experienced success in the early days of using the Snap platform for the club. So I'll just get Kiki to unmute herself, and then I think we can hand over. Kiki, over to you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on, guys. So I'm the head of media and community at Haringey Borough Women's Football Club. I do also support the men's teams at our club as well. Um, I know George had a few questions for me to answer, and what my experience is about using the Snap platform and how that's helped us facilitate the process and getting sponsors on board. I think Mark, you touched on it nicely. You can have all these different discussions with organizations, businesses, or people that are looking for returns on their investment and quite a structured negotiation between you. But at our club, what I found's worked best for us is looking at who are our existing sponsors and where they come from. So a lot of our existing sponsors before we joined Snap Sponsorship were supporters that would come from the men's games and come over and support the women's side. Some were from friends or family or players or people that the staff knew at the club. And for us, it was really about once we then joined the Snap Sponsorship platform, the team at Snap helped us understand what do we have to offer that could help perhaps local businesses or help with our existing sponsors and get more out for them. So once we had the profile created, we then had um, an easy profile that we could share with organizations or businesses from players that they knew from their family and friends could then go onto the website and see actually these are all the different types of offers. And yeah, that's helped us secure some new sponsors and some existing ones that we've been able to keep. And also the social media tool that's helped us to kind of recognize that actually there's loads of different things that we can post. And through posting those, there's that opportunity where people that might not know us can just simply go onto our social media channel, or they might see us anyway from people sharing and seeing, oh, actually, this is what this club is about. This is what they have going on. And then approaching us and saying, actually, we'd love to get involved and see what the great things are going on at the club. I think that might be it in a nutshell to begin.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Kiki. And I think for me, I think one of the things that so often is overlooked is the time constraints that are on volunteers. Some of this activity might seem quite straightforward, but actually when you're trying to do that alongside day jobs and other competing priorities, lots of people that I speak to on a daily basis that are using the Snap platform are parents, they hold down busy jobs, they've got other caring commitments, so actually to carve out time to do a great job on behalf of the club is a challenge. And for me, some of the really great work that I've seen you guys doing in raising your profile across social media, all of that activity when the club gets behind it and individuals within the club get behind it, it makes our job, and when I say our job, I'm talking about everyone on today's call. If we're the people that try to drive forward sponsorship, the more visibility and the more profile we can build online, it just makes our jobs easier. And I think just one other final point that I'd add, and I've seen lots of clubs do this with great effect, is the idea of just getting players sponsored. I talked about MOTs earlier being sort of one of the most obvious and simple things to do in terms of demonstrating value. But if you take it back a stage further, it's even easier just to get players sponsored. And one thing I've found is you can make it quite fun. If you create a player profile on Snap and you've got, John Smith and Kiki and various other people all listed with a profile, and in those profiles you've got some fun content around number of appearances, goals scored, or runs taken, or wickets, and whatever it may be, whatever sport you're in. If there's a bit of fun in there, and where you'll find when I'm not on the pitch, where my favorite holiday destination, worst joke, whatever it may be, and you have to get the tone of voice right, obviously, for your club. But in doing that, you've then got a bio about that player, which is linked to a URL. So, it's therefore shareable on any medium you can imagine, social media, Facebook posts, distribution on email. And if you give that player the responsibility of going and getting themselves sponsored and make it really easy, it might be that you're doing 50, 25, £50 per player. And it might be that they get their parents, guardians to sponsor them, or they might get their employer to sponsor them. But as the club volunteer, asking a player to go and get themselves sponsored empty-handed is incredibly difficult, and both difficult to actually motivate the player to do it, but probably more importantly, it's almost impossible for them to look credible in front of their employer. I think if you can actually present something at the end of a URL that a player can send to their colleague at work, or take home and show to someone, if someone can go and put that in a basket and buy it, which they can on the Snap platform, not only does it start the revenue flowing, and I think in the case of Great Tottenham Cricket Club, those guys did £6,500 in 72 hours after going live just by sharing their player profiles. But more importantly, what that did was it presented the volunteer leading sponsorship with this whole great big portfolio of new sponsors, which they could go back to individually and say, right, it's great you've sponsored player X, but did you realise, left sleeve of the shirt was available? Did you realise that this match was available to be sponsored? And that's where a lot of our clubs, have great, fast, early success using the platform, and then are able to kick on and get some additional deals done with those early adopters that come in via player sponsorship. So I think the work that you're doing, Kiki, at Haringey has been amazing. Obviously the digital side of what you do, particularly, and why we were keen to get you on today is, I'd encourage anyone on the call to go check out their social channels, see what they're doing, see how they're communicating, because that's been fundamental in kind of their profile, and obviously all of that work that's done around building profile within local regional communities can only enhance and increase the likelihood of you being able to go about securing better sponsors and keeping them for longer. So, Kiki, hats off to you. Great job. Thank you very much for giving up some time today to come and share your experience. Much appreciated.
Thank you. I will just preface that anything that I do in the club is outside the full-time stuff that I do and the two casual roles. So anything that you might see when you get onto our socials, anyone that's looking today, it is in any time that I have as well. So I haven't dedicated a lot of time to it, but I've utilized the time that I can to do that. So I know sometimes people might think, oh, well, I haven't got time to do that. I haven't used a lot of time to do that. It's just the time they do have and getting the best out of that. But yeah, thank you.
Great, Kiki, and yeah, just to reiterate that, I mean, Kiki's spinning about 5 different plates. We've been having some conversations about other activity, and there's lots of things going on. So that's been achieved as a volunteer in spare time. So it's just really goes to show the art of the possible. So I'd encourage you to go take a look at that, everyone. Just to move us on, it brings us to the Q&A. So, the idea of these sessions is obviously to share with you some information, but also to dive into any specifics and help you with any questions that you particularly might have. Chat function's open. If there are any questions that anyone's got, please feel free to drop them in. Equally, if we've covered everything in the session, great. Either that or I've bored you to tears and everyone's asleep. I hope it's the former. The chat function is open. If anyone wants to drop anything in, please go ahead. Okay, first question. So, okay, good question. So on the 29.95 package, the Pro package, is there any minimum term? So no, there is no minimum term on any package on the Snap website. So if you go for the free option or you go for the paid option, you can cancel at any time. Again, it's a key thing that we decided very early on in the Snap journey. We know that people are working as volunteers in grassroots clubs based environments. We don't want you to have a hard time explaining decisions that you're making to committees, and therefore we've tried to make this as simplistic as possible. So if you decide you don't like Snap, if Snap doesn't work for you for any reason, there is nothing stopping you cancelling and walking away at any time whatsoever. Thank you for the question. I would just add to that, just to counter any concerns people might have about people leaving. I'm incredibly proud that we have not dipped below 97% retention since we started the launch of the platform. So as it stands this morning, we're sitting at 97.2%. So people don't leave. And I think hopefully that tells you something about the success people are having on the platform. And the support that my team are giving them. So yeah, 97.2% retention. But rest assured, you can absolutely cancel or walk away at any point. Thank you for the question. The other question I've got here is around existing sponsors. So someone's asked, if I sign up on the free package, do I pay a commission on my existing sponsors? No, you don't. So if you were to join on the free package, you have the ability to load all of your existing sponsors into the platform. So all of them can be added in. You can benefit from all the management functionality, the social posting, and all of the other tools we have within the Snap system, but you don't pay a commission on their sponsorship, either at the start or on their renewals. Forevermore that sponsor sponsors you, that doesn't attract a commission to Snap. It's only on any new sponsorship you secure from the date of which you sign up. So again, thank you for that question. I hope that clarifies it. Again, I hope that is clear, but we've designed and developed every piece of this functionality with club volunteers, and we've also discussed with club volunteers the commercial modeling. So I'd like to think that there is nothing in there which is going to be a gotcha. No, there's no intention to catch anyone out. You can either pay nothing and 20% or $29.95 and no commission. You can cancel any time. You keep 100% of your sponsorship on the pro package. You pay the 20% commission on the standard package, which is free. You can't pay any more. You can have as many users as you like using it. We've really tried to make this a system which supports you and doesn't give you any additional work or payments to be made throughout the course of using it. I don't have, that was my last one. I don't have any more questions. Any last ones? Okay, brilliant. I will move us on. So just to say that obviously concludes this 4-part series. Obviously on this slide, we will add the recording for today's session. We will add the slides and we will make sure that this all gets sent out to you very swiftly following today's session. You can obviously watch back any particular items or share with other members of your club. If you do want to see the system in action, I do run 2 watt drop-in sessions every week. Obviously, today's about hopefully giving you some tools and things to think about around getting started. And of course, you can get started this afternoon. You can go on, start building a proposal, putting some slides together, designing something, building some spreadsheets. I'd encourage you to obviously use Snap, sign up to the free option and give that a go. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. But today isn't all about Snap. It's about making sure you do something. So please, if nothing else, go get started, do the player sponsorship, start getting some revenue into your clubs. If you choose to go down the Snap route, I'd be delighted. If you want to see a bit more of Snap in action, then obviously you've got these 2 webinars. We run them every week, so varying members of your committee can log in at a time convenient to them. Obviously, they're every Tuesday, every Friday. We run an evening session and a lunchtime one. And that concludes today's session. Obviously, you can keep up to date with what we're doing here. Please do follow our social channels. The last thing I have to do today is draw a winner, because we did promote the fact that we would be offering someone a year's free access on our professional package free of charge. And I'm delighted to say that we have pulled Fergus Piper. So Fergus, if you could just get in touch with us, we will arrange a promo code and get you started with a pro package free of charge for the next 12 months. Thank you all very much for joining. It's been a pleasure to have you here. I hope you go away with something useful from today's session. And more importantly, I hope to see some of you on the Snap platform so I can see you bring some of this stuff to life very soon. Thanks again for joining. Jump over to the website, have a look at what other clubs have got to say. Hopefully that will solidify a lot of what I've been talking about for the last hour or so. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day and all the very best. Thank you.